Morning, everybody. 8:36 a.m. It is August 21st. Welcome to my channel. Now, August continues to be a little weird with this, just weird, all right? Now, yesterday in the markets, early on, we just basically had a range-bound markets. That's all we had, okay? And then it started to get weak. And once the ES broke the low day, which was relatively weaker than ES, it took care of the poor structure that I've been talking about for weeks. It finally took care of it. And that actually happened, finished it off after the market closed. Now, yesterday, very frustrating trading day for me. Every trade I was in, it was either I got ticked, like stopped by a tick, break even worked. After I went break even, trades that I was up when I was in, and I went against my system of going to break even when I see something I don't like, stop me out. And then I got stopped out by news, and then it rolled over to my target. It just was you're gonna have one of those days every now and then that I generally don't get really pissed off. I was super pissed off. So it's just one of those days that like everything just doesn't go the right way, or the calls you made does go the right way. And then to top it off, I told everybody in my stream while I was live, right, in my Discord, I wrote this, but I was already checked out of trading, right? So I wrote, this was at, what is that, 119. I wrote here, I was like, market's gapping down, but NQ and QQQ pretty much filled their gaps. ES just missed the previous low. QQQ below weekly expected move to the downside. SPY above its weekly expected move to the downside. SPX at 76.72. That was a weekly expected move for the SPX. Now, markets have been in balance all day. Stat, 97% of all sessions hit their overnight lows or highs. ES and NQ have not hit either yet. ES has a good shot at 76.80s. Typical August trading. So I talk about my day, and then just I put a trade on to see what I'm seeing. I'm seeing in the market weakening, and when we retested VWAP, I got short, and I aimed for that overnight low because that should usually what happen. And then of course they got hit. It was like a 3R sim trade, whatever, based on that overnight stat. So I don't know if that's extra salt in the wounds that I could have had a live trade, but that's what I wrote. I talk about that stat a lot. Did I like where the entry came in a regular day? Maybe not. I mean, it's not the worst retest of VWAP, but just wanted to share that. So that brings us to this morning. Markets are, let me just make sure I have it here. NASDAQ is gapping up. ES is still inside of yesterday. That's what we're dealing with today. Okay. Markets have been going down. Okay. And we'll get into that in a little bit. All right. Now, today is OPEX. Monthly expirations today. Lots of money comes off the table today. So, typically on an OPEX day, you generally get early volatility. Later in the day, sometimes you get like range bound trade, pinning on large gamma strikes. That doesn't always have to happen, but it happens. Okay. So, that's what's going on. And you have 945 PMI today. All right. Bitcoin had a monster day, continues to go up. All right. So it's 77K now. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. Use market profile and buying profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, week, previous day. That is my edge. Okay, that's where I come up with my game plans. All right, now once that market opens up, I use my market internals to see where money flows are going off the open. Okay, a little ICT anchor VWAPs. My weekly expected move indicator for Thinkorswim that I give away for free on my Discord. My monthly and weekly gamma flip points for gamma I give away for free on my Discord as well. All wrapped into one is my own proprietary trading system. Okay. Now, hopefully you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. Okay, I do this every morning. Give you the market news, economic calendar, technical analysis, and always give you the long and short trade scenarios in NASDAQ and ES futures. later on in the stream. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That is Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. And I know, okay? I don't claim to be the best trader, okay? I have to start marketing myself. I haven't been doing that. But what I will market is my reading of the story of the market, okay? I do this every day. Now, someone might be able to make something out of my reads, what I say, a quant or whatever. I invite them to sit and just be with me, and maybe we come up with something, other strategy, right? I have my system, but I am open. I am very open because pretty much every day I can nail what the market's going to do, but it doesn't mean I have a setup, right? That's where trading gets really frustrating because I could be like, ooh, like yesterday, the overnight low, probably going to get hit. I said it multiple times, and it did in the ES and the NASDAQ. So it was not a 3% day. It was the 97%, which usually always happens. Okay? So I invite anybody to join. Okay? Come check it out. All right. Let's get right into it. Futures watch list here. Bitcoin up 6.40%. My lord. Alrighty. Ethereum up 3%. Silver's up 1.81. Gold up 1.25. Russell's up 0.80. Nasdaq up 0.75. Dow's up 0.69. ES up over 0.5%. Crude is still positive. All right, up 0.13 though. It's kind of flat. 10-year yield's flat. 30-year bonds pretty much flat. Dollar is down 0.16 and the VIX is down 3.62%. Okay. Ooh, some aggressive buyers just came in here. I just saw in the time and sales. Now, Mag 7 Plus here. Coinbase continues to go. That makes sense. Bitcoin proxy up 5.31%. And I almost got long Tesla at 340 yesterday. And yeah, that's how that goes. Just added to my week, right? Caterpillar up 1.30. Broadcom up 1.30. Broadcom's been getting destroyed lately. AMD up 1%, over 1%. Micron, that's another one up over 1%. Intel up 0.90. Everything's up pretty much except Eli Lilly. Okay, and Netflix is flat. So, top sector stocks. Let's look at them. NEM Mining stock up 1.69. GE Renova up 1.66. Uber up 1.40. Goldman Sachs up 1%. Oracle up 0.87. Qualcomm up 0.79. Is there laggards? Not really. Walmart got hammered, but moving on. Sectors. Semis getting low this morning. Up 1.26%. Technology up 0.80. All right, everything's up. Energy is flat. So nothing is really down. Okay. What I believe is going on is the markets just got a little overstretched to the downside. Okay. A little overstretched to the downside. All right. Remember my weekly expected move indicator, right? My weekly expected move indicator. Now, I will show you right here. So this red line in my indicator, you can see the range that was expected for this week based on the Friday's last week's expiration. This was the risk that was put into the market for the QQQ. Downside was 713.79, upside 748. Well, guess what? There's that red line indicator. We were under it yesterday. You notice how we played and played with it and played with it here. But guess what, folks? We're at 716 now. All right. We are back over it. So again, weekly expected move for the win. SPY, expected move to the downside, 765. We closed below it yesterday. Where are we now? 766. Number 3 is this SPX right here. This line, 76, 71s. It happened to be yesterday's monthly gamma flip point. I don't know if that will be today's monthly gamma flip point. I was talking in my channel. I was like, if we rip through that, this could cause further selling, and it did. SPX obviously is going to be above this today. So, what does that mean today? Well, it means I probably think that's the low. Okay? Doesn't mean it has to be, but probability, right? Probability. profitability. Okay. Now, that we'll get into, with that being said, we're going to get into the economic calendar because we do have some data today. Okay. So here's our economic calendar for today. We have PMIs at 9:45 a.m. So if I don't have a trade at like 9:40 or so, which I very rarely do, I'm probably going to let that go past me, and I'll have to just wait for the dust to settle. That's all. As far as news, yeah, like I said, today I don't really think there's much news. I just think we were a little oversold. Okay, so right here, U.S. equities advanced with crypto-linked stocks the biggest gainers as Bitcoin headed for its best week in more than 3 years. Treasuries trimmed early gains as oil wavered. Okay, there's really not much here to talk about. Okay, as far as Trump today, let's see here. President participates in photo opportunities at 11 a.m. Policy meeting at 11:45. 2 p.m. President participates in policy meeting. Okay. 7 p.m. he delivers remarks, but the market will be closed. Okay. Other news: Treasury buyback renews dollar debasement fears. Nvidia denies reports rolling out China AI chip by year end. Just trying to see if there's anything that I'm missing here. Nope. All right. I think we can move on. Let's check out the commitment of traders again. Okay. I showed this the other day. I just want to see where NASDAQ is now. How short is the NASDAQ still? Pretty short still. Now, I think this isn't going to change because I believe it only comes out on Thursdays. I could be wrong with that. Let me see. Does it still say when it comes out? It's only once a week, so this is not going to change, but very short NASDAQ. Now, this is hedge funds, institutions, large speculators, right? Now, also, this is very short, which means you can get a ripping rally coming up, or this could be also that they're hedged. They're long QQQ, but they're hedged, short NASDAQ futures. Okay, but if there is some kind of boop, yeah, market's going to move very, very big time to the upside. Okay, so besides that, let's look at some breadth here. After yesterday, oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's go here. Let's do this. 20-day moving average, look at that. Ooh. Okay. 45% above their 20-day moving average. So, okay, that makes sense, right? 55% above the 50. Okay. Remember, I was talking about very frothy up here. And we're starting to take a back seat, right? Now, August is still a bearish month. It turned into a bearish month, even though it looked like it wasn't going to be. We put an all-time high in. Interesting, right? Okay. Even with the Treasury getting involved, didn't matter. So bullish percent index out of the S&P. We came off 64% on buy signals, right? NDX. Very frothy, 60%. Okay. So, got frothy, pulled back. All right. Took a news catalyst or whatever. Yields going up. It just still, this is pretty frothy. Everybody, like almost 80% of stocks are on buy signals. You usually get some type of reversion. Okay. All right. Moving on. Let's look at the market internals from yesterday. So now tech was a little bit of an outlier yesterday. It was not that weak. Semis were positive off the open. DRAM stocks like Micron was relatively strong. So that was some of my why I was long the NASDAQ a couple of times yesterday. Okay. You could even see it if I do a dual, just to show you real quick. There's Qs, right? Look at Qs made a bottom and pushed to higher. Look at the ES. I'm sorry, SPY, ES, same thing. This is just the ETF, right? Look, it just kept falling. But look at the NASDAQ, relatively stronger. Okay. So back to internals. So we broke the weekly expected move and the weekly monthly gamma flip point. Huge level. Okay. Everything red at this point because it went lower, but that was not the case all day. Look at up here. This was the beginning. It was kind of just mixed. We were not doing anything until right about here. The market started to get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And there you go. All right. That's the market internals. I wouldn't say earth-shattering weak at all. Okay. It kind of just melted lower. Alrighty. So let's get into daily charts now. Here's our daily charts. All right. So what did we do yesterday? Well, we never filled the gap, right? Very close to filling the gap in ES. Now remember, in ES, the way I was taught, it's basically range gaps. It's not the previous day's close, it's the previous day's lows or highs when you fill gaps, okay? Just to be clear about that. In stocks, they look at the close, okay? So, look what we did. Push through the weekly expected move, like I showed you. Almost hit the 20, but guess what, folks? We're back above the weekly expected move, 7666. Okay? We are, as far as futures, we're kind of at the most traded price of yesterday in futures. I'll show you that later. Okay? That's where we are. But as far as the SPY goes, you're almost in the middle of the session of yesterday. Okay? Futures. Okay? Futures. So, we do have a daily supply zone that just formed in the ES. So, what does that mean? I think it's going to be a little tough sledding for the markets here. Let me just change that color. What color do I want it to be? This color, I guess. We'll make it. Okay. So, that, my friends, is a daily supply. So, what does that mean? That's tough sledding for the market to go higher. That is tough sledding for the market to go higher. Can it go higher? Yes, it just makes the road tough. Okay? Makes the road very tough. I've shown this multiple times. There's actually another daily supply right up here. Okay, but right now we're just going to concentrate on this one. Okay, so moving on to Qs. Let's talk about those Qs. All right, there's my weekly expected move indicator, the red line. We closed below it. We closed below the 50. We almost hit the 20. Now, just to give you something, with the beautiful thing about moving averages, right? Look at the 50-day. It's flattening out. The 20 is rising. The 9 EMA is going down. That's the faster one. But this just means we didn't do crap in 50 days, right? 50-day moving average is flattening out. You still have a rising 100-day, a rising 20-day. Okay, but it's starting to flatten out. We're not doing much. Yes, we just had to move lower, but look, we're back inside this garbly look. Okay, where are we now? 716. Like I said, we're above, and check this out. Last week's low, 715. We are right at last week's lows. So if we close in here, we'll be inside last week's range. All right, yesterday we closed outside of it. Okay, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, NASDAQ futures. Let's see what we have here. Now we did take out this demand zone. See that? We finally took it out. Took a long time. That's what I'm saying. Look how long this was there. Finally took it out. Now this is kind of a nasty daily supply right there. I don't really like that because it's like overlapping, right? However, it's still going to have a tough time to go higher now. We're hitting last week's lows right now in the NASDAQ. And what else is in the NASDAQ? Okay, it's the most traded price of this year. It's there right now, rejecting it. Right now, it's rejecting the most traded price of the year. Okay? And I'll show you a chart that shows you it's the most traded price of the year in a little bit. Okay. All right. That wraps up that. Why the hell is this down? That doesn't make any sense. Hold on a second, folks. Always on top. Sorry. All right. Moving on to hourlies. Let's do hourlies now. Let's look at the ES. Let's look at that ES, and this is our hourly charts now. Okay. So, what do we have here? Now, if we look at the past, oops, sorry. All right, if we look at the past, this poor structure I've been talking about, oh, when is it going to take it out? When is it going to take it out? And I kept saying it's going to take it out. Gone. It completed its mission. Right in the overnights, it pushed lower, right into this demand zone, and now we're bouncing. Okay. So, you can see we broke this overnight lows from the past, and we just yesterday was just this price action was just garbage. And when you broke all those hourly lows, that's when the market fell. Okay, now we're back into the supply, testing yesterday's most traded price. Okay, what is it? 77.25 is your most traded price of the week. Okay, under that level, I would say you're still going to have a bearish structure. You're going to have a bearish structure. Well, maybe we throw a trend line on here. Let's see. Let's see what this trend looks like. There's one, but you could do a secondary right there. Okay? Right there. Notice how this trend comes right into this area. They're never perfect. Okay? They're never perfect. Even the structure is not like, ooh, that's a lot of poor structure it left behind. It only has one little mini, let's get zoomed in here. It only has one little mini bullshit value gap. That's not, so the market's moving healthily up. Okay? Let's just see what happens. Now, Qs, or NASDAQ, NQ, right? Same thing. It took care of that poor structure way back. So 293 is a high volume composite node from the past. 293. Okay, market really needed to find acceptance below. It tried. Now we're back above it. And here's your most traded price of the year, the 29530s. That lines up perfectly with last week's lows. This is where I'm saying, look at all of this overhead supply. Is the market really going to cut through that? I don't think so. Okay, this is not easy. This is what I was talking about. Okay, it made a nice run. I think if I'm long here, I'm probably taking profits up in here, because this is a lot to get through. 29530. Okay, moving on. So let's go to the market profile, bond profile, give you some scenarios here. It's always amazing to me, like when I'm doing my scenarios or what I feel against the market versus what I'm seeing and what I'm analyzing, always is like, oh, well, it's moving up, but look where it's moving to, right? And then I think, like, again, I don't even know what I'm going to say yet, okay? I still don't know what I'm going to say right now about scenarios, okay? But once we look at all these signs, it starts to paint a picture, okay? It starts to paint a picture. So here's our ES, okay? Here's our ES. Let's see, you can make it bigger like that, okay? So, and this is my preferred way to look at the market. Market profile, volume profile, okay? Now I got a composite profile for the rolling week in blue. The orange is the monthly profile, rolling 30 days, roughly. Okay, that's the chart. Now, one of my good friends the other day was like confused on like what this is versus this. I know I've explained it a lot of times, but The dark shaded areas is yesterday's trading session. Okay. From 9:30 to 4:15 p.m. This is how the market traded. So if I open that up, right, that's yesterday's session in 30-minute bars. That's all it is. Okay. That's all of yesterday's session. Now, this session in the shaded area, the lighted shaded area, is from 4:15 till now, up until 9:30. So it's going to have a lot more information, right? If we open it up, there's the whole overnight session opened up here. Okay. And this is the whole overnight session in 30-minute bars. That's it. Lighter shaded areas overnight. Darker shaded is yesterday's trading session. Okay. That's how this is set up. If anybody is confused on it, throw me something in the chat. Now, we have a poor high right here. That's two 30-minute equal highs in ICT terms, okay? That's just market profile terms. Now, we did kind of hit the end of this supply. Was there a bearish value gap? This is yesterday's most traded price. Now that becomes a very, I like to say, confluence level, the 7704s. Okay, so let's get into scenarios for the ES. Okay, a couple things to note here. Where the hell's my marker here? Oh, here we are. Okay, so couple things to note. Oh, really? Let me restart my, I don't know why that just did that. Okay, give me 1 second. I have no clue why that thing did not load, and weird. Okay. So, what do we have this morning? This is why I love the way I look at the market, right? I'm not looking at it in bars all the way across. No. Overnight session, yesterday's session, right? So, look right here. Markets opened up here. Guess what the short activity was? That's it. So, what do we have? The market is close to, I would say, 95% net long in the overnight. Okay? Close to 95% net long. What does that mean? It means that the weak hands in the market, which is the overnight, are very long. What does that mean? Well, any kind of resistance they get, weak hands will take profits and should have the markets correct. Okay? That's why I pointed out. So, we're going to get right into scenarios now. And that will be part of why I think a long is a good shot on a pullback. Right now we have a very nice target of 7704. That's a poor high, equal high, however you want to call it. We kind of took care of this supply, but I'm keeping it up there. Okay, most traded price of yesterday, 7704s. Beautiful level. So if we're 100% net long or close to it, I'm going to look for a pullback. So if this pullback comes, it's not going to make me nervous because right there's a demand zone, right? What's right at the end of this support of this demand zone? The 50% retracement of the overnight, 76.81s. You have 76.89 is the 50% retracement of yesterday. So either one can be the long. Okay, so let me restart that. So a pullback, okay, into the demand zone. The demand zone is from 76.92 to 76.81. Let's just say any support in there, you'll have the 50% retracement of yesterday or the overnight in here. Any push up, and I see internally that, ooh, money flows are going into tech. That's what you want to see. You get a higher low. You target the 77.0450s. Now, what I would say with this is, okay, now if this meets my risk to reward, I could be out here. But if you're like, if there's a bearish fair value gap above here, all the way up to pretty much yesterday's highs. If the market gets momentum, it could just rip right through it. And I would think we probably don't see prices over 77.25, the most traded price of the week. Okay? Now, what else would I even be entertaining here for a long? A sharper pullback and a quick one, right? Down to another bullish for value gap and demand. So we have a little tiny bullish value gap from 76.77 to 76.75, followed by demand zone from 76.75 all the way to 76.61s. I want that to be quick for this one. I want it to be quick. So it has to come here quick and boop, and then you get that higher low. Then you target 77.04s, and if you feel we got the momentum, 77.25s. Okay. Now nothing's perfect. Okay, this can go a little deeper, right? Nothing's perfect. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. Nobody knows. Okay. Now, door number 3 for a long. It could be we just push up. We are in this bearish for value gap, and then we just start to hold and hold and hold, and we get one pullback. Then you target 77.25. That's not my preferred way to trade it. I'd rather get a pullback. Okay. So shorts. The shorts. Now, I just said we could get a correction because we're so long in the overnight. So what would I like to see? Well, if you take out that poor high and sweep it, come back on inside, retest 77.04, there's your target, the 76.80s and change. Okay, maybe even go down to the 76.70s. That's one. Okay. Now another one would be we rip, go all the way up to yesterday's high, 77.20s, hit the 77.25s, but we do this very quickly. Okay, and maybe the market's not that strong. It's just kind of neutral, but it's powering up. Guess what? You hit that, reject, and you're like, oh, all these longs probably going to take profits. You get a lower high. Okay, that's probably where you can short this. And at this point, I wouldn't know really because it's probably intraday. Maybe intraday, you go for the low of the day, maybe the VPOC of the day. I don't really know what that target would be. Okay, but that could be a nice short. Okay, that's it for the ES. All right, move over to the NASDAQ. Now, this is where it becomes complicated because of the longs that I was just talking about. All right, let's get into the scenarios for the NASDAQ. This is where it becomes complicated. I already know that the NASDAQ's the thorn in my side right now for a long in the ES. That's why I prefer pullbacks. Okay. No, let me show you the proof of the NASDAQ. Okay, the proof of the NASDAQ is right here. Okay. Now, let me bring this lower. This price right here, this hot pink line with the box around it. You see this high volume node right there? 29530. That is why I'm saying with all of this volume here, okay, all of the volume here, we are underneath it in the NASDAQ. We are underneath it. This is not going to be easy to cut through. This is why I don't think the NASDAQ has the most probable shot to rip higher. It's going to have a catalyst or something come out of nowhere. Okay? So back to here. Now 29530 is a big, big level. Let's break out the session. Now, we are gapping up. Very small gap up in the NASDAQ. Very small. Look where we're rejecting. Last week's lows is 29539s, which happens to be the most traded price of this year, which happens to be the most traded price of the week, 29602. The most traded price of the month is 29750. There's monster levels above here. Guess what? Let's look at the overnight inventory. Check out the open of the overnight. Check out the shorts. There's none almost. We're pretty much 100% net long. we're due for a correction. This is what I'm saying. I want a pullback. I want a pullback. I do not want to be up here and trying along. That is not smart. Okay? Not smart. So, let's get into scenarios. Okay? Okay. We have major demand here from 294 all the way down to 29281 and a little below that. Okay? Major demand. Thick border. So, what did I just say? A correction is most likely. We're already doing it. So, right here, I think if we get a nice swift push into this supply, the most traded price of yesterday was, let's call it 29370. Okay? Into this demand. I just want to see some buyers show up, retest those buyers. Let's just use 29370. Then you target overnight highs, 29539s. I don't see us ripping and ripping and ripping forever. Maybe you go to the 296s. Like I said, it's not very probable. Look at the volume, even in my volume profile. See how thick it is? We just don't usually rip through those levels. You just don't do it. It's not probable. Okay, so I would say pullbacks, as long as we don't take out the overnight lows, pullbacks above 293 are buyable. Pullbacks above 293 are buyable. So sticking to that, right? Anything can happen in that big demand zone. As long as 293 holds and I'm seeing buyers and tech is strong, that you get long. Okay? Shorts. This is the level. This is your level, overnight high, 29539. Lines up with the most traded price of this year. Monster level. Okay? So what would be a short? Well, I would love if the market just goes, oh, we're going to rip off the open, take out that overnight high, slam into a major supply zone, which is 29550 around, and then reject. Whoop. Retest the 29530s. That's your short. That's where you target the 29370s. Okay. Maybe even if it gets really nasty, the 29281s. That's my only short I think I would even remotely think about. Now, again, I'm all basing this off of structure. What's your easiest road? The path of least resistance. Okay? Pullback longs is the story today. Now, if you're nimble, you could possibly get that correction from the overnight inventories in both markets being pretty long. Those trades are very hard. They're very hard to pull off. They don't really give you a ton of setup. Okay? There we go, folks. That is it for me today. Smash the like button if you enjoy that analysis. Please join me every morning. Subscribe to that alert. Give you the market story, technical analysis. Also just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay? We have a plan. NASDAQ looks like it's starting to correct now. Okay? We have a plan. Today is OPEX. Early volatility should happen. Okay? Today is probably one of the days I really, really like what the market's doing because it gives us a more easier way to get something. The structure, the way it's set up, right now we don't have a gap that we've had like a couple days in a row. I think it's going to have an easier trade early on. It could get murky later. Okay, it could get murky. All right. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I mean that. Let me be your indicator. I'm not going to steer you wrong. I'm not going to be scared by a big red bar if the structure is different or the internals say something different. I do not get deterred by that. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you find any quant or whatever to be like, whoa, this guy really reads the market, the mechanics of the market. I don't get, whoa, this is a big red 1 minute, 5 minute candle. Oh my God, no, nope. If the structure doesn't change, then you don't, that doesn't mean anything. Okay, so hopefully you understand that. All right. Now, everybody remember, no trade's a trade. Today is Friday. Today is Friday. I would like to be done by 11 o'clock. Okay? We have 9:45 PMI. So that might, I could say it already right now. That's probably going to be a thorn on my side because usually when that happens, I'm like, there's my entry right at 9:45. It's coming to where I want to get long, and then I can't go into it, and then the news pushes it to where I thought it would go. I can't stand that, and I know that might happen today because I really want that pullback long in either market. Okay? Okay. Everybody have a great day. Now, I must tell you, I will be out next week. I think all week. Maybe I come back on a Friday. I can't remember. I'm going on vacation, so I will be out all next week. Okay, everybody. I hope everybody has a great last week in August. I believe that is. Okay. So everybody, if I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see everybody the following week, not next week. Like I said, I might be back the end of next week. I think I am. So maybe I am back the end of next week. So all right, everybody, take it.